Welcome back to CONDUIT RADIO, the only place where you can find out the truth about the superhero plague tearing this country apart. My name is Snap, but the people in the mainstream media have taken to call me Shadow Slinger ever since that explosion that leveled 4 city blocks and changed my life forever. With me is my co-host Marais, who doesn't have any superpowers, except the superpower to yell at me every time I make a binary moral choice. Together, we're the only source of truth about the Sucker Punches game, the Infamous series, which is what the podcast is about.
And I'm your co-host, Marais.
Yeah. Yeah, I said that. We're coming at you live from Empire City.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye, ladies and gentlemen. I'm out.
It's the first and only sub 1 minute episode. This is my speedrunning strategy.
I just want to say to the people listening, Snap specifically asked me to handle the intro for this one. He didn't tell me what I should be expecting. Nothing, like no hint, no clue.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we had a lot of fun talking about Sly 1, 2, and 3, but as we've been foreshadowing it the whole time. Now we're moving on to Infamous, and now it's an Infamous podcast.
I have so many things to say, and none of them are about Thieves in Time. Where is the Rocket Robot on Wheels episode?
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I guess we should, in the interest of, doing this properly, abort this episode, delete the episodes we have put out, and start over from Rocket Robot on Wheels.
And also, why the fuck don't I have superpowers? Excuse me? What?
I was very deliberate in the little narrative I crafted in not giving you superpowers in order to get that exact reaction.
Well,
also, it's because the Infamous series is all about there's 2 people and one of them has superpowers and the other one doesn't.
And I'm the Zeke?
Yeah, you're Zeke.
I'm the Zeke.
Zeke's great. It's a compliment.
Listen.
How's your Texas accent?
If you wait a few more minutes, we're gonna get to the Wild West.
Yay.
But, yes. Welcome back to Safehouse Chats.
Welcome back to Safehouse Chats. Save me, Cole McGrath. Save me. Cole McGrath, save me. It's Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, developed by Sanzaru Games for the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation Vita, coming out in February of 2013. It's the game.
Almost 8 years after the release of Sly 3.
And, at time of recording, 11 and a half years ago. I remember the gap between 3 and Thieves in Time becomes smaller than the gap between Thieves in Time and the nothing that came after. I mean, also at time of recording, we just saw Sony spend 8 years developing a game that was then playable for 8 days. So I don't want to lay all the blame at one particular developer. I think it's fair to say that a lot of game series have been having a bad time. But suffice to say, I hate to start on a negative note, but Thieves in Time did not cement a immediate legacy.
Well,
I don't like being negative, so maybe we'll kind of we'll limit our criticisms just to that kind of statement.
No. No. I actually have input on that statement.
Okay.
But let's just get the basics out of the way. This is obviously our Thieves in Time coverage. Part 1 of many.
Part 1 of question mark. Yeah. We were very particular and deliberate about showing the trilogy, like the kind of same thought and care that we felt went into it. And likewise, we're going into this episode pretty much shooting from the hip, flying blind. We have very little in the way of a plan, as is probably, like, me doing a Cole McGrath voice. That was the plan. We're now, and as far as I'm concerned, we're in uncharted waters.
Before we get into details, into specifics, let's just say, regarding the statement about the cementing the legacy, okay? Just a little note. My sister's boyfriend actually listens to the podcast, and he never played Sly.
Okay.
And he came to visit this summer for a week. So we played a bit of Sly 2. During his stay, we were having breakfast one morning, and he searched Sly Cooper edit on TikTok.
Okay, that's what the kids do now, I guess.
Yes, I was about to say, like, I am not on TikTok. I take it you are not on TikTok either.
Not at all, no.
So, yeah, he just searched Sly Cooper edit, and let's just say it was mostly Thieves in Time.
I mean, demographically, that would make sense. If we assume the average TikTok user is, 20-ish, 11 and a half years ago, they would have been 9.
I'm not as fluent in Star Wars as you are, so I might be speaking out of my ass, but do you think this is like the case of people who grew up watching 1, 2, and 3 growing up to defend?
Oh, it's good, actually. Like, yeah. I mean, you and I have seen that on Tumblr. We have a small enough group of people on Tumblr who like Sly Cooper at all. And then within that small group, there is a second small group who are definitely there, who are like, either Thieves in Time is a flawed experience, but it meant a lot to me, or Thieves in Time is good, actually, because there is... you can find anyone saying anything on the computer.
These are the times we live in. Honestly, like, I don't even know where to start with this one, because I wanted to also ask you if you think, as you've hinted at, like, Sony meddling in things, do you think this is a case of Sucker Punch not doing their homework? Was the decision even up to them to begin with? Because excluding the ports of Secret Agent Clank and the Sly trilogy, this was Sanzaru's third game.
This is something that we come into a lot in terms of discussing Thieves in Time, because Sucker Punch has been nothing but complimentary toward it and toward Sanzaru, which Thieves in Time defenders are like, there, that proves that it's canon and it's good, and if you don't like it, you're wrong, which is not how that works. But what I would assume, and I don't want to speak for anyone, but the games industry is small. It's getting smaller every year with each new batch of layoffs. And if I were Sucker Punch, I would not be like, Thieves in Time sucks, actually. And I wouldn't even be like, Thieves in Time was trying its best. Like, I would just be like, yep, it was good. Yep. Anyway, have you seen our new game? Like, when you're an adult with a job in a public-facing role, you don't stir shit in a way that people on fandom spaces do.
What else would they have done? Like, publicly speak against the game?
Yeah.
I don't think that's, like, even remotely possible. Forget, like, snobby directors speaking against movies being taken out of their hands. That's completely different. Like, if Sucker Punch in public, on record, gave their blessing to the game, and they're like, yeah, we love the ping pong, like the addition of the ping pong,
the ping pong is
or whatever the fuck.
Great, yeah.
Then is there even a realm of possibility that they would like be like, no, the ping pong sucks? No. All I take from it is that the people at Sucker Punch are like well-adjusted, polite professionals. Like the same way that, to use a recent-ish example, Charles Martinet was very, very thumbs up about not playing Mario in the Mario movie and instead having Chris Pratt play Mario in what was both before and after release kind of derided for a not very good performance. But Charles Martinet was like, yeah, it's great because he has a job. Like, again, I don't want us to come across too conspiratorial, like, oh, Sucker Punch secretly hates Thieves in Time. Well,
I'm not putting words in their mouth one way or the other. Maybe they do like it. Even if they do like it, what the fuck does that mean? I don't. Harris doesn't. This is our podcast.
Are you ready to delve into specifics? Because I have a small announcement.
Okay, I'm curious about the announcement. Please share.
You know, I'm like committed to putting like my best foot forward in everything I do. Like, I'm a perfectionist through and through.
Okay.
So even when it comes to the podcast, it's like a key and a cackle for us. But like, still, I want to be like really good. Like, I want this to be like top tier.
You want to get a good grade in podcast, something that is possible to achieve and normal to want.
100%.
Sure. Big mood.
This is the truth. So I played Thieves in Time
Oh, no.
to prepare for this podcast.
That's the one thing I didn't do. To clarify for our listeners, I played through the last 3 games and I made careful notes so that I knew exactly what I wanted to talk about. I have not even looked at so much as a GIF of Thieves in Time because it's been burned into my memory for 11 and a half years. And every so often I'll be like brushing my teeth and I'll just remember how they redesigned Carmelita and I will take damage. So I commend your journalistic spirit to make sure we know what we're talking. You know what you're talking about at least.
Listen, I obviously value the podcast more than my mental health for me to do this.
Evidently, yes.
And did it pay off? Absolutely not. Because it did not contribute anything to my notes. But even so, this was a moment of revelation.
Okay.
That the game is still shit.
Okay.
And I will stand by that.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, now that that has been revealed, would you like to go into our general notes about the game, or my general notes and whatever you have from memory?
I have one last thing written down if you would like.
Go ahead.
I was curious. I joked saying that we wouldn't be negative. Actually, we are going to be negative, just to clarify. But I thought it would be funny if I tried to make you say like 3 nice things. 3 unqualified, unconditional compliments. Because I have a few things here. They were hard to come up with, but I do have a few things that we can be positive about. And for an additional challenge, I'm not going to let you say that you like Tennessee, because everyone likes Tennessee. That's baby bones. We all agree on that.
This is a bit of like a boomerang moment, because I'm going to remind the audience, or remind anyone who's joining us from Tumblr, that in the early days, you were claiming that up to the dino level, the game was actually good.
Yeah. I had, again, just to use another Star Wars analogy, very famously, Star Wars Episode 1 is very bad. But very famously, it was the first Star Wars movie in 8.5 years or whatever. It was really hyped up. People were so excited to see this brand new chapter. They went to go see it, and then they came out of it like, that was really good. That was good. I liked the colors in it. So, like, I think genuinely there is more momentum to the first half of the game. I did have a good time, but as it went on, I kind of slid more and more into that territory. And then within about 2 or 3 years, I was like, maybe that game isn't worth being canon. But you are dodging the question.
The digital footprint doesn't lie.
Uh-huh. Do you have anything nice to say? Because as Mugshot points out, if you don't got nothing nice to say, you should say nothing at all.
And thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We'll catch you in the next one.
That's such a simple bit, but it does get me very consistently.
I do have nice things to say, which will come to me eventually.
Unedited pause.
Before I get to that, I actually don't like Tennessee Kid Cooper. I don't know what you're going on about.
Okay. There you go. We can't even agree on that much. Podcast critics.
Stated 0 things I like, added +1 to the things I don't.
Yeah, we're negative. You're in the red now.
Okay, I will say that I like the Wild West hub.
Yes.
I like that they gave the option to replay missions very easily, like no challenges or shit, just like here you go, you can replay this mission.
Okay.
Not that I used it, I'm just saying it was handy. And I liked that they brought back the original voice actors. So there's that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll accept that answer.
Do we have anything that matches?
No, actually, no. Impressively, no.
Wow.
Peter McConnell never misses.
Yes.
He was asked at one point to list some of his favorite work he's done, and he listed Thieves in Time music.
He did?
He did, presumably because he was able to do more with the PlayStation 3 than the PlayStation 2. Because the PlayStation 2 kind of limited what you could do musically, whereas with Thieves in Time, to my understanding, he was working with like live musical instruments. So, or it was just more top of his mind because it was what he had worked on more recently.
Mr. Peter McConnell. Mr. McConnell.
Sir
I don't
McConnell.
even know what the... Sir McConnell. I don't even know what the fuck you look like, but my co-host has been singing your praises for like 5 episodes now. So, the fact that you listed Thieves in Time as anything of like being worthy, take the L. Get out of here.
He's proud of his work. Let the man be proud of what he put in. The other thing I had, the idea of dressing Sly up in little costumes and he unlocks new abilities and he goes to new places. The idea of that is fun. I like that idea. Less so the execution and what they went with. But the idea, the Metrovania-y idea is fun. No comment? Okay. Aris is making a lot of silent gestures, but he's refusing to say anything on it. I guess we'll get to it when we get to it.
I'm just refusing to... Okay, let's move on. Before I malfunction, let's move on.
I think we talked about Bentley getting Dr. Octopus arms in a previous episode, or maybe that was just us chatting.
Yeah.
I kind of dig that. It does, again, execution isn't great, but I like the idea that if we had kept getting installments, Bentley would have gone from a wheelchair that he had just built a few months ago that had a literal, like, magnet on a fishing pole aesthetic to, like, the Dr. Octopus arms here to, like, it gets, like, more and more advanced the longer he's in the wheelchair. I think that would speak to Bentley's, like, perfectionist nature, that he's always improving what he has. And finally, aside from enjoying Sam Riegel's vocal performance as Tennessee Kid Cooper, in the tutorial mission, all 3 of our Cooper Gang boys are playable. And back in our Sly 2 episode, my co-host Aris said that the tutorial of Sly 2 was pretty good, but what would have made it better was if Bentley and Murray were playable. So here you go, bud. This is what it looks like. Isn't it better?
So this is you getting back at me for me quoting you. I see. Okay. This is like so dirty. This is very dirty.
This is what you wanted. And on that very normal note, I'm just going to close my notes tab because I have nothing else written down. That was it.
Okay. Well, I feel the need to cleanse us both of speaking positively about this game.
Okay, fair.
So moving into the general notes, if you're ready.
Yeah, I think it's time.
I have 2 things I'd like to say first and foremost. The first one being that it's worth mentioning the game's pre-release footage.
Yes.
And how it kind of like sealed its fate. And I'm specifically talking about like the trilogy secret teaser option, as well as that like godforsaken E3 preview with like the saturation and brightness like cranked up to like an 11 million.
Was that where there's a photograph of, there's no other way, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's a man in a Sly Cooper fursuit, like a costume, like an official Sly Cooper live action costume with like a huge head, and he is getting stared at by popular internet personality and podcaster Justin McElroy, because he used to be a video game journalist. And there's just a photo on the internet of Justin McElroy like staring in what I would say is fear at this 7-foot tall Sly Cooper. It seems to be taking place at E3, so I'd say it was that one. Just to add to the vibes.
I have no idea what you're talking about, and it sounds like I should be grateful for that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I remember like very distinctly what I will say, because like at the time I was like 9 or 10. So what I will say is that like I remember I didn't even have like a laptop or anything. I remember my grandma used to have like a white laptop that she'd play slots on, and I went to her house and discovered the E3 footage, and I was like, they're bringing Sly back, no way. And then immediately after I was like, what did my grandma do to the settings to make the saturation like 100 million? And
because obviously,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you would blame your grandmother over the fucking professional game company that was having its big moment. Obviously. Poor grandma.
I must apologize to my grandma.
Yeah, you better. In front of all our listeners.
Because it was not her fault.
So we know that you're...
It was not her fault.
No.
I'm sorry, Nana. I know it wasn't your fault. So, well, now many years later.
The other thing I remember, just when we're talking about pre-release kind of discussion, I definitely remember seeing an interview where they described Sly as, quote, older and wiser in this new version. Because, you know, time has passed. And,
No. No. No.
No.
Cuts to the footage of him giving his hand to the Paradox to save him.
Cut to the footage of him getting, like, whacked with something and making a funny face as he gets whacked. Like, even when I was in my more positive Thieves in Time era, I was like, wow, for someone who's older and wiser, Sly sure is suffering a lot of slapstick.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to mention, out of, like, everything, like, we can sit down and talk story and narrative choices and the miniskirt all day.
And we will.
And we will. But if the game is unplayable, then what is even the point of putting it out in the first place? Because the game is genuinely, like, awful. And I'm not talking about, like, creative choices. I'm talking about, like, how it plays. Like, when you hold the controller in your hand and you're playing, it is excruciating to play.
Yeah. I didn't hate the gameplay for the most part, and it's important to stress for the most part, because they did invent Spark Runner. And whatever else we're talking about, I will not and cannot forgive Spark Runner. I refuse. Call me a hater if you must. Strike me down.
You? A hater?
But I will not live in a world where Spark Runner is allowed to go free, where we just accept Spark Runner as just an inequality that we all have to deal with. No, they chose to take the hacking and add, the hacking wasn't good enough in the trilogy, so let's have the normal hacking, spruce that up a bit visually, that's fine. And then have the side scroller where Bentley is a large muscle man, because that's what all nerds secretly want. They want to be large muscle men. That's funny. And then just top it all off with fucking Spark Runner. Did you see the stuff. Did you see the original pitch that got shared like a year ago that showed like how it originally looked, like Sanzaru's first draft, and it had Sparkrunner in it? So they came up with Sparkrunner like year one of development, and they stuck with it all the way to release.
I knew coming into this that this would be like when you'd pop off. I didn't know when exactly in the episode it would come. I knew it was coming.
You knew it was coming.
But what I will say in relation to what you said, but also the game being unplayable, is that is rare, but there are successful examples of fun motion control.
They are rare.
They are rare.
PlayStation Heroes is not one of them either.
Well, I'm not thinking so much Sony, I'm thinking more Nintendo, Mario Galaxy, but
Yeah.
it's just like...
When it's used sparingly.
But it's just like even the motion control is so clunky and shit. I'll get to gameplay, but mechanics and like how it feels in your hands specifically, I didn't have this complaint when I first played this game, but now having played it like now,
Yeah.
it's like borderline unplayable.
Ugh.
Like, it's just like, it doesn't function. It's like, it's chicken shit. It's like a laggy mess. It's a laggy mess with dogshit mechanics that bears zero resemblance to like the original games. It's just not fun to play as Sly anymore. It feels like heavy to control the characters and awkward. And perhaps worst of all, the minute-long menu screens.
Yeah.
Like loading screens.
Yeah.
What?
That was so noticeable.
Why?
Compared to the originals run pretty smoothly.
I know. I got to the dino level and I had collected enough masks secretly hidden throughout the game. Ooh. When you unlock funky, wacky, great exclusive like features like the Sanzaru paraglider. Like, who doesn't want the Sanzaru paraglider? Please comment if you don't want the Sanzaru paraglider. And if you remember well, you can unlock costumes for the characters.
Correct.
So I enabled what is it called? Ultimate Sly. And after that, like, it was like reduced to like something like 2 frames per second.
Oh.
It just would not run in the overworld. Like, Sly dressed up like as Ultimate Sly did not sit well with the game.
Nor should it, because it's a terrible design. I love alternate costumes, but Sly's I remember being bad. Murray's and Bentley's I don't remember, which indicates they were also bad. Carmelita's I used because, depressingly, putting her in a skin-tight leather catsuit was more modest. It was better than her quote-unquote normal outfit. And also she got cool anime sunglasses while she was at it. Sure, why the fuck not? But that was the only one I ever enabled for more than like 30 seconds.
Find all 60 masks hidden throughout the game and unlock pants for Carmelita.
Ransom. Hostage. We've held her jeans in a secure location, and we will only give them back with 50 play coins. Spend more if you want her to wear boots that don't have big heels.
Moving on.
We have technically still not started. I mean, we've started. We've definitely started. By many different definitions of the words, we have gotten started. But normally we do like a plot kind of run through, and we haven't moved forward there.
Started my application for the mental asylum, that's for sure. So
Yeah, you do want to apply in advance. The system's pretty backlogged. Hopefully, by the time we're finished talking about it, they'll be ready to ship you off.
No, then I'll need a lobotomy probably. Moving on to the game's concept.
Yes.
Since you brought it up. I am not going to sit here like a know-it-all and debate on whether or not time travel was a good idea. Because what I will say, I know your opinion.
Yeah.
What I will say, though, is that is a very easy sell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, time travel is a very easy sell, especially in 2011. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, you could do anything. And especially this concept, like how exciting to finally get to visit different historical periods and meet as well as play as the Cooper ancestors. Like, how could you even botch that?
From the first game, they were such a important, but by necessity, dead set of characters. So this is the only way you could do that. And Rick and Morty hadn't come out yet. We hadn't invented the multiverse. So this was the next best thing. I remember finishing Sly 3 for the first time and being hyped when Bentley said about the time machine and dreaming in my little head what that would look like. And it wasn't like this. Not like this.
How could you botch this concept? How could you botch this concept?
Morally, how could you?
It's such a straightforward concept executed so horribly.
There's at least 2 points where I'm going to... I did so before in the Sly 2 episode. I'm just going to point out something that our mutual Mello said already on Tumblr. The characters that you see JPEGs of in Sly 1, that Cooper ancestors, all have... It's like a simple masterclass in character design. They all have different silhouettes. They all have different outfits. They all have different, poses. From what you can see of their faces, they have different attitudes. Like, Henriette and Tennessee are both smiling. Thaddeus and Ryuichi are both much more severe. Sly, the Scottish one, and Salim are both big dudes, while most of them are smaller. That kind of thing. Presumably as some kind of cost-cutting measure, Ryuichi, Tennessee, Galeth, and most egregiously, Salim, all just have Sly's skeleton and Sly's walk cycle. Something that they had to scale Salim down. They redesigned Salim and also made him purple for some reason, so that he would be Sly-shaped and Sly-sized, instead of the big buff dude that we see in 3. And that sucks. Why have that many playable characters if 6 of them are the same guy?
I'm so happy that in the editing process you'll have to cut all the pauses, because everything you say just takes a minute or two for it to sink in properly.
Yeah. While I'm at it, the other thing I was going to quote Metal on is in the introductory cutscene. In previous introductory cutscenes, as you are introduced to each character in turn, you are shown Sly, the thief, Bentley, the brains, Murray, the brawn, and Carmelita, the law. Because that's what she is. She is the manifestation of law and order and the police. Although she has, of course, the romance going. In terms of a standard interaction between her and Sly, that is what she represents. The normal life that he cannot have. In this opening cutscene, the boys all have the same titles, but Carmelita says, the girlfriend. And then they write, the ex-girlfriend over it, which immediately tells you how they conceptualize Carmelita as a love interest first, and a police officer, or God forbid, any kind of thematic figure, second. It's foreshadowing for how the rest of this is going to go. I tell you right there at the start.
Well, since you bring it up, I'm just gonna jump to that point and just say that a lot of the writing is foul, and I'll get to that. But one of the most clear problems with the entire game, that it requires its own section. It doesn't fall under writing, it doesn't fall under anything else. It's its own section. Is the misogyny is blatant.
Yeah. Thieves in Time is a very clear case study in how societal progress is not linear.
No.
Because the video games we've talked about from 2002 to 2005 are as sexist as you would expect video games from the early 2000s to be. They have some interesting character moments for their female characters, but they also sure did make that fox sexy and have makeup on, even though she's a cop who spends most of her time traveling from place to place. That kind of, basic things. 2014 was the year that a woman said on the internet, hey, I think video games might be sexist, and they burned her at the stake to disprove her. Thieves in Time came out in 2013. So this wasn't the video game she was talking about because no one fucking played it or cares about it. Sly Cooper is not an important franchise and never has been. But it's the kind of video game she was talking about because I guess, I don't even know what I would diagnose as the root issue, but video games definitely got, worse and more juvenile and more, put tits in it, it'll sell as we moved from the 2000s to the 2010s. And now we've moved away from that a bit since, but it's still not great. Somehow 2013 was a worse year than 2003, which I can't explain to you.
Yeah. I mean, there's, literally nothing to defend them on this.
No.
It's not like, oh my god, Iris and Snap are dissecting the story. It's actually good if you think about it. No. They've turned all the female characters into, nothing but, brainless bimbo love interests, which, is all they can think about and fuel all their, motivations and aspirations, and that's just it. It started even before the game came out with the miniskirt.
Yeah.
That paved the way for everything else.
The design is painful to look at because Carmelita has always been, again, a kind of sexy, idealized figure. She's curvy. Fan artists often, make her more muscular, which is correct. And if you're a Sly Cooper fan artist, you should do that. But that is fan art in action. In canon, she's toned, maybe, but, she's very woman-shaped. So they looked at that and they were not sexy enough. Let's fuck with the sliders. And in so doing, and this is another thing that a less funny Sparkrunnery thing that I just genuinely cannot forgive them for, they modeled ribs for you to see in her design. Carmelita Fox has gone from, kind of, again, idealized, maybe not quite as muscular as you might expect, but there was a solid kind of core there, literally, to dangerously underweight with one of those waists that only exists in drawings of women done by men. Frequently, a thing my wife will say if she sees a bad female design is, cool, where are her organs? And it's very much, this is that. Where are her organs? Where is her lungs? Where is her fucking abdomen? Where is it? Where is it? Where is any of that? There is no space for that in there.
It is in the Contessa's graveyard.
Okay. Why not?
It has been buried. Where this game belongs.
Yeah. No kidding.
In relation to the misogyny and what we were saying about the redesign of the ancestors, everything we've talked about up to this point leads me to a more general complaint, which is how Sanzaru obviously lacked any respect for the source material.
See, I think what's fucked up here is that
I know what you're going to say.
They did like the source material. They didn't understand it. They didn't know what made it good, and they had bad takes. But they asked, allegedly, they asked to make this game. They wanted to make this game. The same way I would want to make a fourth Sly Cooper game. It's just that their ideas were bad. And they were not able to match Sucker Punch's talent.
I don't agree.
Sure.
I mean, obviously. I knew you were going to say something that I said similarly to Dr. M, which is he thought that he was a hero in his story.
And likewise.
And Sanzaru were yes, this is top tier Sly game.
We're doing it. We're bringing Sly back.
it's one thing to like love a property and it's another thing to like respect it. And this is like a note I have way saved for later, something in the Wild West, but I'll just say it here. If you're taking over a property and just making like your own thing, I'm not saying you shouldn't take risks, and I'm not saying you don't love it, but there's a certain level of like reverence that should be there, which is like, don't bastardize what came before. Maybe don't retcon, maybe like, let's not do all of that. Let's not make like drastic changes. Like take risk with the story 100%. Just like Professor Layton versus Ace Attorney, where Maya supposedly dies.
Yeah, that's a big swing.
Great. You took a risk. It pays off because I was like gagged. This is different because what I have written specifically is that they are absolute like sluts for like claiming series firsts. Obviously, like what comes to mind is Bob Cooper as being like the first Cooper.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to when we get to, but like even the line for the first time is like repeated in the game throughout, with Sly having to be thrown into jail or like when they feel defeated after like before the epilogue.
Yeah.
It's just like a cheap and backhanded way to leave your mark on something that like doesn't belong to you. That's what I mean, they lack respect.
There were clear implications in the trilogy that the gang were doing things. Like, Murray talks about a job in Istanbul that we never see. So, like, this is retcons by association in that anything you claim is the first, even if it's small, you're saying that it didn't happen on one of those little adventures either. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Absolutely. Also, I think it speaks to, again, this isn't a groundbreaking sentiment. I think that they did have love for characters and elements in unequal amounts.
Yeah.
I think they did their best to depict Sly. It wasn't great, but they did their best. And then they were like, and Carmelita will be here and she'll have a gun. They did their best to depict Bentley. And then they were like, oh, but we don't want to write dialogue for Penelope. We don't want to figure out what Penelope looks like and sounds like and what her dynamic would be with Sly and Murray and Bentley and Carmelita. That would be too cool. And it would take too much effort to write. So we'll just put her in a little box and ship her away. Funny how it breaks down along those lines. I'm sure there's nothing to interrogate there on a personal level in your art. It's a stone I can't throw 100% because in my main fanfic series, we've continued to be linking my fanfic down at the bottom this whole time. In my main fanfic series, I started off introducing like a new continuity and I just had Sly, Bentley, and Murray. And in retrospect, Penelope should have been there. So I sympathize to an extent that like across the original trilogy, that was the baseline. But if you're going to do a direct sequel, Penelope is here now. Penelope is a member of the gang and she is dating Bentley. You can't just sidestep that. This is what you're saying about respecting what's gone before. If you were to say, hastily reverse Penelope's character arc, that would be bad.
That's like one of the most egregious examples, 100%. But it's like not just Penelope. It's like the fact that within 1 minute of the game, they just drop the entire Sly 3 ending.
Yeah.
Like within seconds and just like go on to do their own thing. It's like, well, Sly's back in the safe house now.
And clarify, we talked about this last episode, clarify their read of the situation, which is that Sly was tricking Carmelita, and Carmelita was being tricked. Didn't know what was going on, lied about having him as a cop, not knowingly, but like reflexively, like a panicked instinct, and then just went with it, and then had no idea that he was faking, despite the fact that they lived together for presumably a period of several months, because this version of Carmelita is a woman and therefore stupid.
She's a woman. She doesn't know up from down.
She doesn't. Oh, that hurts. Writing credit, General Tsao.
Yes, if you didn't get that, that is not what I actually think about women.
Always important to clarify on the internet.
Yes. Yeah. Like, the writing is horrible.
Yeah.
The writing is atrocious. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Even beyond all the, like, liberties they take and how much they choose to bastardize the characters, like, the story is just an interesting, repetitive mess filled with plot holes, by the way. Like,
it's so unforgivable. I've been using that word a lot. It's so unforgivable that every level ends with someone walking up behind Sly, picking up the cane, and then running away. The first time that happens, you're like, oh no, they failed. They must be dealing with a real smart villain. And by the third time, you're like, oh God. Oh no. Oh, this is just how it is, huh? There have been video games. For example, Sly 2. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I really like this video game series called Sly Cooper. And Sly Cooper has superficially a pretty simplistic plot where they're trying to collect all these clockwork parts. But then near the end, the bad guy actually tricks them and gathers up all the clockwork parts that they themselves already gathered. And it's like this big kind of, oh no, we fucked up moment. Imagine instead, in every level of Sly 2, they did this intricate, impressive heist to get the clockwork parts, and then a normal guard just walked up behind Sly and took the clockwork heart and then walked off with it. And Sly was like, oh, darn, it happened again. Actually, I've sold myself on that. That sounds really funny.
it's not even funny because you'd think that, like, in a room of writers, like, someone would point this out. Maybe?
I don't know if there was a room of writers. I really don't know what the writing process looked like. I think the one thing that we found out is that Matt Olson, the voice of Bentley, helped with the script, but that's it. In fairness, it's the same deal with the original trilogy. To my understanding, Nate Fox wrote most, if not all, of the dialogue, but his job is just designer. So presumably one of the people, or multiple of the people listed as a designer, wrote the dialogue. But whoever did it, did a bad job. And they did a worse job on the plot. Like, I'm sorry, they just did. There's moments that I can get what they're going for, like Murray using his necklace to avoid dying.
I was thinking that.
That's kind of cool. And then actually, it turns out, not only did the necklace bring them to the exact time and place as where there was another Cooper, but it was also where there was a heretofore unmentioned agent of the Paradox that they just would not have known about. And then that swings right back around to being bad. It's not a thing that would happen unless the writers wanted it to happen.
I can't believe we were thinking of the same thing. Like, that's crazy. Because, exactly, that was a good, like, idea. Like, have an impromptu level.
A blind jump.
Honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this. I was thinking this while I was playing the Dino level, but, like, I can 100% get behind them having a near-death experience and having to use something impromptu to time travel. Better yet, maybe something like the Guru gave to Marais, like the necklace from, like, the, like, Australian fossil necklace. Great. Have them go to prehistoric time, like Ice Age, Dino level. Even that, I'm like, okay, not my pick, but, like, if you chose to do it, then just do it well. Why do you have to need to, like, put a Cooper in it? And
such a good Cooper, too, which we'll unpack that when we get to it, I guess. If are we even doing the structure anymore?
If you mentioned, like, the writing is horrible, and part of that is also the humor is just worth mentioning. Like,
it's hard.
It's just, like, only fart jokes, fat shaming, Marie cross-dressing, misogyny.
It's real lowbrow stuff. It's so hard to write a funny video game, apparently. This is kind of dredging up old resentments. I don't like Looney Tunes. This is a hot take, but I don't particularly like Looney Tunes, even as a kid, like as a 6-year-old. I would be watching Looney Tunes like stone-faced. Like, it doesn't do anything for me. That's the nature of humor. Most of that is, like, I think just a matter of personal taste. But...
Yeah, that is blasphemy.
One thing...
I'm sorry.
that I do not just put down to subjectivity, that I am just fucking a genius about, is Pepe Le Pew.
Oh.
Pepe Le Pew is not funny, and has never been funny, not just because of the whole, you know, sexual assault stuff, but because skunks don't come from France. There's a lot of ways you can make fun of the French. They've done some stuff on the world stage, but to call them stinky is like grade school shit. And the skunk is an animal solely found on the North American continent. So there's no like connection there beyond the stereotype. So you can imagine how pleased I was when it turned out the villain of Sly Cooper Thieves in Time is Pepe Le Pew. He just is Pepe Le Pew with a sword that he takes out in the last 10 minutes. But otherwise, he's just Pepe Le Pew. He is a French skunk who smells bad and also, as it happens, is casually sexist. You can't make the villain sexist while you're writing the women the way you're writing. Like, you can't take the moral high ground over your own monster you've created. And I love Clockwork. I love Neela. And I love Dr. M. And then this fucking... It's not even a matter that he is like, those guys would all beat him in a fight, or those guys are all funnier than him, or anything like that. Those characters are all better designed than him, and that's brutal. This whole game feels like a first draft that was never cleaned up. That definitely extends to who will the villain be? We should have like, because Sly's a raccoon, we should have like a similar thing going on. Oh, how about a skunk? Skunks are nasty. Oh man, you know how it's like often in Paris. The skunk is French, and he smells bad. Ship it for Christmas. Wait, we missed Christmas. Ship it for Valentine's Day.
Snap has popped off.
I hate that character so much, it's not even funny.
I know.
I don't even get any, like...
I know.
Like, if you showed me fan art of him falling down the stairs or something, I'd just be angry that you're showing me fan art of him. Like, I don't like to be reminded of him level of hate.
So, anyway, here's my Looney Tunes mug that I have on my desk.
Wow, it's weirdly patriotic to America for some reason. I guess that is how they got their start.
This podcast is not sponsored from America.
Just the Corporation of America.
I mean, that's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, the shareholders.
That country is a company.
Yeah, if any country was. Yeah.
Yeah, I have several thoughts about the paradox, which I have not yet figured out how to verbalize.
We can come back to him. As much as it pains me to say that, we can come back to him. Oh, skunks don't come from France.
So, I just want to, like, wrap up the general notes after an hour.
After an hour.
I mean, if anything, obviously the majority of, like, what we have talked to is going to be, like, the general notes. But going back to how the game doesn't play correctly.
Right.
Because I wanted to differentiate between how it plays and the actual gameplay. The actual gameplay is also horrible. Like, don't get me wrong. It is horrible. It is boring and tedious and repetitive. And it's, like, never been made clear as much as, like, right now, because I've obviously replayed it. It's just, like, not fun, you know? This is not a fun game. I searched Thieves in Time to get, like, the basic info on, like, release date and stuff. And one of the first results that pops up on Google is a post on Reddit, which is like, so should I play Thieves in Time? And like one of the top responses or something is, it's a fun game. I'm sorry, Reddit user. It is not a fun game. How is it a fun game? Explain to me. Because this is like horrible. This is like a game that relies heavily on like collectibles, which, okay, I was happy they brought back the clue bottles, but then there's costumes and treasures and slime masks. And what do they unlock?
Costumes. Yay.
You mean table tennis?
Yeah.
And the opportunity to replay the super fun hacking. Yay! Love the hacking so much.
I had one more I like the table tennis. I think it's fucking stupid. It's one of the rare, this is so dumb, it's looped back around to being a good idea, that there is just a fully functional 2-player table tennis simulator in this PlayStation 3 game that you can use at any point. I kind of dig that. It doesn't make up for anything else, but I think it's cute.
I see that the curse will not even stop at Thieves in Time to make us disagree.
Not Thieves in Time. Yeah, we've gotten it twice now.
You mentioned the costumes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know Sly takes advantage of disguises in his career as a thief, because obviously, like, Thaddeus as well. But when did costumes become, like, his thing?
Yeah.
Because when you're unlocking stuff for the game, Carmelita can get new ammo, Bentley can get, like, new bombs, Marais can, like, do stuff with his fist. I'm not gonna unpack that. And Sly unlocks costumes. Why?
Yeah. Like, again, I see the intent here that you see, say, in the Wild West level, you see an area that you can't get to, but you can see, like, an object there of some variety, and you're like, okay, I will get a costume that will allow me to go there later. I like that as game design. That's basic shit, but I like it. The actual costumes they go with are weird. They're all weird picks. They are, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I have it from memory. Japan, Shogun armor with a shield that you can reflect fireballs with. Okay, fine. Wild West, jailhouse outfit, and he has to carry a ball and chain, and then he has to balance on the ball of chain. That's kind of cute, I guess. And, like, it ties into the story. Like, he was made to wear that, but it's not fun to be on the ball. Dead person. Number 3 is dead person, because it's saber-tooth skin in a world where those guys can and do talk, and it's introduced with 2 of those guys talking about how a 3rd member of their party was killed and skinned, and Sly finds that skin and he puts it on, and that gives him jumping powers. What?
I literally played this like yesterday and didn't connect the dots, so thank you so much for like providing me with context.
That's a corpse, bud. You're putting on a dead person's skin. You can't do that. There are non-anthropomorphic animals in this universe, and there always has been, and they explicitly say, no, this guy had a soul. This guy had a soul. It left his body when he was murdered. Anyway, the other 2 are an archer, which makes him look like Disney Robin Hood, and was used in the promotional material. He wears it as an alternate outfit in the fucking Sony PlayStation Super Smash Brothers clone they made. And then Genie outfit, which was a whole thing.
Is that what it's supposed to be?
Which one?
The last one. Is it supposed to be a genie?
I think so. And it gets slow down time power.
And a cool sword.
Uh-huh. If there's one thing Sly needs, it's a melee weapon. He's really, like, lacking a melee weapon. We should give him a melee weapon. Something that he can hit people with. If you think about it, it's sort of something that the original Sucker Punch team really missed out on doing. Like, they did a pretty good job, but they should have given him a melee weapon.
I know this is like...
I'm just being bitchy now.
I know this is like coming hot of like the table tennis like discourse, but like Now that you pointed out, it's a corpse. I can't stop thinking about it and like low-key loving it. What is that movie called? Like Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if Sly wears it in public, would the guards think that, like, that's their coworker?
In a more kind of like Deadpool type tone, that could work on purpose as a black comedy beat. But as is, it's like a lot of things in this game. It's just not very well thought through.
I know I keep, like, going back a lot during this episode, but we talked about the E3 thing and the interview with Sanzaro.
Yes.
Fun fact, I remember they did like a Q&A before the game released, and they had like, they were accepting questions from the public. And someone had asked them, how come you've chosen to animate the cutscenes and not do them comic book style?
Yeah.
And mind you, I was like 10 or 11 at the time. That was like the first time that I actually like remember like in my head being like, what's comic book style? And going back and realizing that none of the cutscenes in the trilogy are like animated. They're just like moving like statically.
Yeah, there's sometimes like a little bit, like Sly will pick up an object, but that's it.
Yeah. Point being, the animation sucks.
Yeah, sad but true.
It is ugly. And this is not like something that is exclusively like Sanzaru's fault. Like, obviously they are not the people who like animated the cutscenes.
They presumably didn't ask for it to look bad.
Yes, but it's just like, it's just, I'm sorry, it's just like ugly.
They end up in a weird place where like the ancestors in particular look different.
Yeah.
In engine versus in cutscene. Like Galeth is like a completely different color. Tennessee's eyes are different. Just like basic things like that.
Oh, in terms of inconsistency, it doesn't end there. Like, this is something I've noticed just in this playthrough, but trust me, the cutscenes just like seem to have been animated separately from like without any context to the story, because things happen in the cutscenes which just don't happen in the gameplay at all.
Oh yeah?
I started noticing because Sly busts Ryoichi out of prison, and then it cuts to like his introduction cutscene, which begins with, I'm gonna say an homage, but don't quote me on that, where Marais shoots out of the prison with a, like, what do you call it? Like a cartwheel.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, the gang is in the back with Ryoichi, and I'm like, what? What?
Okay.
There's just like a lot of inconsistencies, and I'm like, why?
Again, definitely even just the like character design discrepancies. And even characters like Penelope look different in cutscene versus in engine. Definitely points to A, a bit of a disconnect in the production line, and B, probably a lack of budget.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine there wasn't scope to do revisions and stuff. And if there was a problem with the cutscene, they were just like, well, it's the one cutscene we get, so
Yeah.
whatever. The kids won't notice. But we did.
Thank you.
We did notice, and we complained about it online.
Thank you, Blaze the Best. Thank you actually for saying thank you actually for saying kids wouldn't notice, because that is my final note for my general notes. I just said that all of these points that we've mentioned lead to one final question, and that is, who was the target demographic for this game?
Who was this game for? The one thing that we haven't gotten to yet, because again, I was expecting to go through it in order, and I intend to point it out every time it happens. This game loves the 1980s so much. Whoever was in charge of writing the story and writing the dialogue and staging the scenes adores Hollywood productions of the 1980s. And the thing that's fucked up about that, and I don't normally describe a reference to the 1980s as fucked up, because a lot of good movies came out in that decade. I like Back to the Future as much as the next guy, probably more. I think it's fun. But the thing that's fucked up is that I am the age to aim for here because I was the right age to play the original trilogy, evidently. So when you're making this product, you're either aiming it at me, someone who was a kid when these original kids games came out, or you are aiming it at new children. Like, this is a new jumping on point. You're expecting to get new fans of the series. Maybe you'll have some, humor and stuff for me, for someone my age who wants to see the continuation of the story, but you're focusing your efforts on bringing in new blood. Neither of those demographics do you aim the 80s references at. Neither of them. Both me and the hypothetical younger Thieves in Time enjoyer are both too young for that. I have an above average knowledge of 1980s American pop culture against my will, and even I was like, okay. So imagine, like, someone who doesn't watch Back to the Future, someone who isn't familiar with obscure Star Wars quotes, like Aris, who has just raised his hand. Do you know the Star Wars reference they make in the Japan level? You don't, judging from your face. When Sly puts on his cool Shogun outfit for the first time, someone says that he looks a little short to be a general.
You're kind of short to be church.
What? Oh yeah, right. The armor.
Oh.
This is a reference to the 1974 film Star Wars, later renamed Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope, where upon rescuing Princess Leia, Luke is told that he, quote, looks a little short for a stormtrooper. So, like, that's not may the Force be with you level. That's a deeper cut, and I know it was on purpose, because it is rife with other references.
Yeah, when we called to, like, plan this episode and you revealed to me that Bentley saying in the sewers that
Yes.
last time, yeah.
Aris didn't know this. One of Bentley's first lines of dialogue is he's going through the sewers and he says the last time he was in these sewers, he was a teenager, which scanned to Aris, a normal human person, as just him referencing the fact that he maybe grew up in Paris and he got into mischief with Sly earlier. But it is, in fact, a somewhat oblique reference to the 1980s property Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is about teenage turtles who live in a sewer. And also they're mutant ninjas, but that's secondary to this particular line. That's referenced. Back to the Future is obviously referenced. Star Wars is referenced. Indiana Jones is referenced. Just having a training montage is like one general reference. It's constant, and it is self-indulgent, because it's so clearly for the adult men working on this product in their professional jobs that they had in 2013, when I was still technically a legal minor. The fucking box said E for everyone and had a cartoon raccoon on it. So there's that. But then also, to get back to your original question of who this game was for, fart joke. They took the Black Baron twist and they telegraphed it more so that the kids wouldn't be too startled. Stuff like that. Just completely sort of stripping away any enjoyment that I use the term adult loosely because we're all playing a video game about a raccoon at the end of the day. But someone who had played a video game before, let's say, wasn't ever going to get blown away by Thieves in Time's writing on any level. It's like it's trying to be really basic and accessible, but then it's covered in 80s references. It did not pick a lane.
Louder for the people in the back.
Louder for the people in the development studio.
Oh. I do not think they would want to listen.
No, that's true.
Listen, I literally everything you have said, I have written down. You've expressed it perfectly. So, yeah. And it's not, the thing is, what really gets me is that, sure, some things glossed over my head when this game came out. I was 12. I did not grow up in the 80s. I did not have that connection. I got like of Mice and Meg. Like, okay, I did that in school. Who is the reference turning Japanese for exactly?
Was it you? Or it was definitely someone who I had to explain what that reference was recently.
It was not me.
Okay, it was someone over Tumblr, but someone was like, why did they call it Turning Japanese? That's such like a weird and basic title for the episode set in Japan. Like, what does that mean? And I had to be like, well, there was a song in the 1980s, and that's it. There's no, again, suffice to say, absolutely nothing in this game is ever writing on a thematic level.
No.
There's no, like, deeper meaning to it. It's just like, hey, this thing that you might be aware of also has the word Japanese in it. Great.
Yay.
Okay. Yay.
Well, that only took an hour and a half.
Oh.
I'm experiencing, like, hot flashes, like... So, prologue,
Let's get started.
Prologue, aka I smell a rat.
Yeah, because he's stinky. That's the joke.
P.U.
Start as you mean to go on. Those French people, they don't have showers, I'm told by my uncle who's never left America, but I trust what he tells me. We open in Paris, and Sly Cooper, who has faked his amnesia, is enjoying life on the other side of the law in the company of Inspector Carmelita Fox. The two spend time together, attending a formal party one night in Paris with Sly still
Are you reading the
keeping up his
Wikipedia
charade
page?
of having amnesia. I am literally reading this off of the Wikipedia page. He has an itch to steal, which, sure, his suite of superpowers should come with some kind of downside. It is still stupid, and I respect people who think it's a stupid thing, and this is not why they should have broken up, but sure. Sly has a fundamental, like, psychological, psychosomatic need to commit grand larceny. Why not?
Kill yourself. Listen, I know that as opposed to you, who is deeply hurt by this game, I joke a lot about how horrible it is.
Right.
I get that, but that first cutscene, those like first 2 seconds, just do something so deeply painful to me. Like, they hurt. Sly looking into the camera and smirking as he says he faked amnesia, as if he like played Carmelita, just rips my like I genuinely try to avoid that cutscene because it just like genuinely rips my soul like out every time. It's like watching your favorite childhood cartoon like be made fun of on like a Family Guy cutaway skit. Like, it's such an outright bastardization of like our beloved characters within the first seconds of the game.
Yeah, really starting as they meant to go on. Carmelita is a rube, a dupe. She didn't know. She's not as smart as Sly, who is epic and cool. At this rate, she's just holding him back. Like, come the fuck on. The idea that she didn't know and never knew is like the worst reading you could take from the end of Sly 3. And as such, it's the most common reading. I don't think they're alone in reading it that way.
No.
And it's what they went with. And it's what is quote-unquote canonical now.
But the thing is that it's not even worth discussing because there is zero substance there. They do nothing with it. They just say, that's what happened, let's move on. Because, like, the gang reunites after everything that went down at the end of Sly 3. And they're instantly back in action. No consequences, no banter, no dialogue.
Murray gives him a big hug.
And a high five.
Yeah, and it hurted him. It's funny.
Do Marais and Bentley resent Sly for faking amnesia?
Who cares?
Do they have any hesitations? Like, does Bentley still harbor ill will towards Sly? Where's Penelope?
No, because they're friends. Bentley is Sly's friend. So he goes on an adventure with him. This is literally like a 6-year-old writing this. I'm sorry to be that mean, but it is. Like I said, it's a first draft that was never cleaned up. Even reading, I'm sort of glad I have this wiki page open, because what you're saying about just getting all this dumped on you with no substance, Sly reminds the audience that as a Cooper, he is honor bound to only steal from other thieves. So he's going to steal from this art collector, but it's okay because he heard that the art collector is smuggling black market antiques. This is all just narrated at you.
Yeah.
When we get Carmelita's cutscene in the Wild West, she describes Le Paradox as being a model citizen. But she's wrong. She and all of the other cops in the world are wrong to think that based on the evidence. Instead, Sly just heard a rumor that was correct. In terms of making Le Paradox interesting, it's for sure a fucking uphill battle. But I do remember having the idea of genuinely playing this angle that he is in good standing in society, because that's not really something, arguably Neela had that. But otherwise, Sly does commit crimes against other criminals who are supervillains living in ridiculous lairs on Interpol wanted lists. If you put him against someone who is nominally in good standing, who would be able to play the victim card if this horrible career criminal came after him, that's legitimately a dynamic that they haven't gone into yet. And instead, they talk about Le Paradox having that going on, but also they instantly tell you as well that he is a criminal, don't worry about it, and that is true, actually. What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm that sprite of Phoenix Wright when he gives up.
It's, yeah, my co-host has his head in his hands, and he had for most of what I just said. This is the start of the game. We're a paragraph and a half in.
I think we might have like underestimated the toll of this game.
Are we gonna end up doing like 6 episodes on Thieves in Time? Please tell me no.
Hell yeah!
Oh, fuck.
This is a Sanzaru Stan account.
No, it's really the opposite. It's really the opposite. Although, I'm one of those people that cares about the origin of words. And the origin of the word Stan is an Eminem song about the fan that was crazy and he ends up, like, killing Eminem. I'm gonna just...
I see where you're going with this.
I'm not saying anything legally actionable. I'm ending this thought right here.
I remember when I wrote my, like, Thieves in Time critique, like that essay that I kept reblogging like a few years back. I tried to DM it to the guy who ran Sanzaru at the time, and he never opened my DM.
No, why would he? I wouldn't if I were him.
Well, I said, hey, Glenn, would you like to read this great essay I wrote about how much I love Thieves in Time? And he never opened it. And someone then told me off on Tumblr, and he was like, why disturbs this guy's peace? Dude, I was literally 14 years old. Shut the fuck up. Anyway.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
So Penelope's gone. Penelope's just gone.
But everyone forgets like 2 seconds after it's brought up.
Yeah. Bentley is so worried. But anyway, like it's literally that meme of Jeremy Clarkson. Oh no! Anyway, because the Thievius Raccoonus, it's melting. It's the words, they're falling out of it. Again, very kind of Back to the Future understanding of temporal cause and effect. So he just sort of obviously...
Wait, why?
Because Le Paradox...
Wait, don't explain it to me because I was gonna watch it this weekend.
Oh, Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, it's what they're trying and failing to rip off here.
But like, there's repercussions of the past being altered in the future.
But slowly, to give the protagonist enough time to undo it. Because if it was actually, quote-unquote, realistic, which time travel can't be, like, he would go back in time, he would stop his parents from meeting, and then he would instantly die. But instead, he goes back in time, he messes up things a little bit, and he can see, he's got a photo of his family, and he can see that it's changing, but his friend is like, but you've still got time to change, to set things right again. So that's the energy.
Because his mom tries to sleep with him?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
Which
movie is the Wild West in?
the third one.
Is it 3? Okay.
That's at least one thing they didn't do. I'm sure it was on top of their mind. It's been said many a time that considering how they wrote the female characters, it was good that they did not feature Henriette One-Eye Cooper, the strongest and best ancestor.
Oh.
It is now occurring to me, based on the Back to the Future influence, that if they had done so, they would have had rancid comedy to the effect of her hitting on Sly. Because it's just accepted among everyone on Tumblr that Henriette is a lesbian, but I don't think Sanzaru got that memo.
No.
This game is managing to hurt me in new ways, even though that wasn't a thing it did. This is just an idea I had that it could have done. And I said it live on air. I'm sorry.
If you think Carmelita hitting on Sly's ancestors were fucked up, then wait until the gang rescues him from ancient Egypt and they get to the pirate episode. In Sly 5.
Sly 5 coming soon, for real.
Back to the Thieves in Time. Back to the Thieves in Time 2, the sequel.
Sly Cooper Thieves in Time 2, Sly 5. Sly 5, Sly Cooper Thieves in Time 2.
So anyway, this is just like a standard tutorial. As you said, you get to play as 3 characters. Wow.
Thereby making it objectively superior to the Sly 2 tutorial.
No. Hacking is introduced in the tutorial, which, I mean, I have to say, I'm legally obligated to say it at least once per episode. So as a certified Bentley hater, I never really put a lot of thought behind the hacking.
Okay.
Until you made it clear in the previous episodes of the podcast, at least to me, that there's at least like a certain build-up to introducing the hacking. Here, any reverence that has is completely stripped away and it's just like shown within the like first 2 seconds of the game. It's in the tutorial.
Yeah. Get used to it. We've got a lot more hacking and it's all great.
Rambo reference.
This PlayStation 3 6-axis controller.
Marais gameplay is somehow even worse than the hacking. He moves so slow. Like, what the fuck? They were like, let's make him 10 times more incompetent.
Yeah, it's funny. This game hates women, but it also very much hates fat people.
Oh, 100%.
Which makes Ms. Decibel, who we'll get to later, like, the focus of all its rage. But Marais has always been the fat guy. Like, I'm not going to pretend he wasn't food obsessed and a bit thick before, but like, suffice to say that they didn't quite manage to grasp the subtleties of his character. And instead he has a funny idle animation where he takes out a piece of broccoli and he sniffs it and then he gets mad at it and throws it away.
There's like no even weight to get to that, because anytime I just left my controller for like 1 second, or like while characters are talking over Marais' idle animation, he just like gets right to it. Like there's no...
Because it's really funny, so they wanted to make sure that you'd see it. Someone worked hard on that, Iris.
I'm sorry to my grandma and Sanzaro. Anyway, yeah. Carmelita catches Sly stealing the Japanese artifact and is immediately boxed into the angry ex-girlfriend stereotype.
From which she shall never escape.
No. Watch out, guys. She's so angry. Like, let's give her some space. Uh-oh, she's an angry woman.
She's an angry Latina woman. You know,
Oh.
they're even angrier than normal women. According to Sanzaru, again, like you before, I'm clarifying, that is not my opinion. That is the opinion made clear by the piece of art we are discussing.
No, bestie, I think that actually is like a cultural truth. because Sanzaru was so dead set on proving it's actually accurate and funny and right and like very tasteful that they went ahead and gave her mannerisms of such effect. Now Carmelita shakes her finger in her head and holds her hip.
Mm-hmm.
She's so sassy.
Not something she ever fucking did. She is so rigid in the trilogy because that's what she is. She is a rigid cop. She is a plank of wood, and we love her for it. I legit had to... I remember years and years ago looking into whether, like we said, voice actors are fine. I'm a big fan of Grey Delisle, aka Grey Griffin. She's in a lot of cool shit. I had to look up whether she was Hispanic or not. And she was raised by her grandmother, who is Mexican. So when she does a Latina voice, she is drawing on her heritage in some way, shape, or form. However, that doesn't quite stop me from cringing when, like, she says I'm not gonna do the voice, but there's definitely a part where she's like, no one crosses Carmelita Fox, but she pronounces it Carmelita, like, really, and puts the finger wagging, like you said, onto each syllable. Again, I'm not blaming Grey Delisle. They told her to do that. And she was like, whatever. It's a dumb game for children. I'm getting paid. There's a lot of good voice actors in this, and they're getting told to say and do stupid shit, and that makes me sad.
Not to take away from, like, any of the voice actors, because they don't deserve it. And, like, it's not a very... What do you call it? It's a thankless job, voice acting.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not a very good Carmelita iteration in terms of voice. I mean, and everything else, but, like, specifically for voice.
But it's hard to get excited for the voice work when the dialogue is what it is.
Well, there's that too.
Maybe she could have done better with a better script, but yeah, like, again, I like Grey Delisle a lot. I think she's done a lot of good voice work. I don't think she's an ideal casting for Carmelita. I don't think her voice really matches that well.
No.
Carmelita's like a bit rougher. She's a bit more... You can hear the accent, but, like, it's not exaggerated. Whereas, especially because I know Grey Delisle from so many other projects. She's fucking Azula. Like, she is a very recognizable voice. And mostly, she doesn't talk with that accent. So it feels like I'm hearing someone doing an accent. And that's not great.
No. Grey Delisle playing Carmelita catches Sly stealing the Japanese artifact, and Sly just leaves.
Yeah.
Without talking about her. Because women don't deserve that. Especially when they're angry.
Yeah. Why try to explain yourself, Sly? Just fucking bail.
No.
That's emotionally mature. He's older and wiser, you know.
In this game specifically. And here's another inconsistent cutscene. The gang gets in the car, and you have to press square or circle to, like, have Marais, like, start the engine, and they shoot into the time portal. And then directly after, the cutscene is about how they're in communication with Dimitri.
Yeah.
On that note, what the fuck?
I want to note as well that they leave behind 2 flaming trails and their little license plate spins around.
Oh?
This is a reference to the 1980s film Back to the Future.
I have not seen it.
Well, now you know. That's just straight up, shot for shot, what happens in Back to the Future. It's funny.
The more you know.
Yeah. Like I said, every time we hit one, I am going to say it out loud, and we're going to just sort of stew on it, and how funny it was, and how necessary of an addition it was. Thanks, guys.
Can you please explain to me what they did to Dimitri and why?
What I find most interesting about Dimitri's quote-unquote role in this game is that his voice actor David Scully is credited in the end credits, implying that he was supposed to say stuff and might even have recorded dialogue. And then they were like, no, we'll just have Sly paraphrase what he said. I think there was definitely an ad that depicted a Sly-like figure running around on the rooftops. And then
my god.
it turned out to be Dimitri, and Dimitri says like one line. So maybe that's why he was credited, because he did do voice work for Sanzaru in this capacity, but he does not say anything in the game. And I get it. I've tried. It's fucking extremely hard to write realistic sounding Dimitri dialogue. They were really onto something very specific there, but they don't do a good job with trying to make him sound like Dimitri.
Why would Dimitri, whose thing is sex, basically.
Insofar as one can do that in an E for everything experience, but as we covered in Sly 3, he does outright say the word sex, which is unique to him in this series.
Yeah. Why would he stay at home and wait for the gang to communicate with him?
Because they asked him to. And he's their friend.
Bentley said, pretty please. And Dimitri said, okay.
Yeah.
And Dimitri said...
And Dimitri said, okay, take our word for it. Dimitri told me that he said okay. And now I'm telling you.
So we're going to cut this episode here.
We had thought that we might do 2 episodes. Maybe we'll do more like 3. Like I said, we had no formal plan. But the important thing is, I think that Infamous was a really good game, and that Infamous 2 is even better.
I think that if anyone got through this episode and was thinking, oh, this is like satire, they love Thieves in Time, and they're just like being joke critical of it, like people from Tumblr.
It's still good. It's still
good. Then this is, if you've made it this far and endured all that our jokes and our satire and our sarcasm, then it's paid off, because you know what? All the other stupid games don't hold a candle to Thieves in Time. It's gonna get 3 episodes, whereas everything else got 2 or 1.
Yeah.
That's how much we love this game.
I have regrets. I have immediate regrets.
Should it end there?
Yeah. Why not? I stand by everything we've said, except the bit where I implied that I might kill the Sanzaru developers the way that Stan tries to kill Eminem. I might cut that out.
No.
But aside from that...
No. There's no backpedaling now.